So after you win a revolution, what comes next? Well, for the newly independent United States, it meant building a government from the ground up. And their first shot at it is one of the most misunderstood parts of American history, the Articles of Confederation. It was a total experiment, really, born out of fear. And its story, well, it reveals a pretty crucial lesson about power. Let's dig in and see what really went down.
I mean, really think about this. This was the central question facing the founders. You got to remember, they had just fought this long, brutal war against what they saw as a tyrannical king and a totally oppressive central government over in Britain. So their biggest, number one fear was accidentally creating another monster just like it.
And so their solution was the Articles of Confederation, which was, and this is the key, intentionally designed to be weak. The goal was super simple: keep the national government on a really short leash and make sure the individual states held on to most of the control. And that one choice, it would define literally everything that came next. Now, we always hear about the Articles as this total train wreck, right? But that's not the whole story, not even close. Before we get into all the cracks that eventually brought the whole thing down, it's really important to understand what this first government actually got right. And believe it or not, there were some major, major wins. Just think about this for a second. Under the Articles, this brand new shaky government managed to lock in a critical wartime alliance with France. It successfully fought and won the entire war for independence, and then it negotiated the peace treaty with Great Britain. It even set up the basic government departments that, in some form, we still have today. These are not small potatoes, people. But even with all that, its greatest triumph, its real home run, was a plan for the future: the Northwest Ordinance. See, after the Revolution, America suddenly had this huge chunk of new land, and this law created a clear, organized plan for what to do with it all. And the plan it laid out, honestly, it was pretty brilliant. It set up a clear path for territories to become states. But the most radical, forward-thinking part was step 2. Any new state formed from this territory had to ban slavery in its constitution. I mean, this was a massive, monumental decision that would completely shape how America expanded west. Okay, so for all those wins, the government's biggest feature, its weakness, started to become its biggest bug. And these cracks, they really started to show up in 2 major places: money and respect. Or maybe more accurately, a total lack of both. So picture this: you've just started a brand new country, and you're already buried under $33 billion of debt. That's the rough cost of the Revolutionary War in today's money. The United States was born completely broke, owing a fortune to its own soldiers and allies like France. And the huge problem? The government had pretty much no way to pay it back. And this right here, this is the fatal flaw in the design. The national government had no power to tax its citizens, not a single person. All it could do was basically go hat in hand to the states and ask for money. Meanwhile, you've got each state acting like its own little economic island, printing its own money and controlling its own trade. It was absolute financial chaos. This financial weakness just made the U.S. a punching bag on the world stage. Other countries looked at this weak, decentralized nation and just refused to take it seriously. They would just create trade policies that they knew would hurt the American economy because they also knew the central government was powerless to do anything about it. And talk about disrespect. It was blatant. Even after signing the Treaty of Paris, which officially ended the war, Great Britain just left its soldiers hanging out on American soil in the West. They just refused to leave, and the U.S. national government was too weak, with no real army, to force them out. But the problems weren't just coming from other countries. That same weakness that invited foreign disrespect was causing the nation to basically eat itself from the inside out. The so-called United States, yeah, they were acting anything but. Yeah, instead of one nation, it was more like 13 tiny, bickering rivals. They fought over literally everything: land, taxes, trade routes. Each state had its own agenda, its own money, and its own little army. They were acting more like competitors than teammates. And here's a perfect example of how this played out: the whole mess with Spain over the Mississippi River. Spain, which controlled Florida and all the land to the west, just decided, nope, Americans can't use our river. This was a total disaster for farmers out west who needed it for trade. But again, the national government was too weak to challenge Spain and stand up for its own citizens. So you've got debt, disrespect, and disunion. And the crazy part is, you can trace all of these huge, crippling problems back to one single thing. The very feature the founders thought was the solution to tyranny. Their deep, deep fear of a powerful central government led them to create one with, well, with basically no power at all. The very thing they designed to protect their liberty was now threatening to destroy the entire country. The solution had become the problem. And if you just look at the structure, you can see exactly why it was so weak. Sure, you had a legislature, but with every state getting just one vote, it took a supermajority, 9 of the 13 states, to pass any important law. There was a president, but really it was just a fancy title with no real power to enforce laws. And this is a huge one, there was no national court system to referee fights between the states. So by the late 1780s, things are looking grim. The whole experiment is on life support. The country is broke, it's a joke on the world stage, and it's splitting into 13 different pieces. The United States was literally on the brink of collapse.
And that's the great irony of it all. The government that was so carefully designed to protect American liberty had almost brought the new nation completely to ruin. In trying to avoid one kind of disaster, they'd created a whole other one. It just couldn't work.
So the Articles of Confederation proved one thing for sure. Just being afraid of power isn't enough to build a country that lasts. The nation needed something new, something stronger, yeah, but something that still protected freedom. And that question, what could possibly fix this? Well, that's what leads us right to the next incredible chapter in the American story, the creation of the Constitution.